Okay, let's take a closer look at our Enviroscape model. I want you to imagine that these are just green meadows, fields, forested areas, but notice one other landform that we see here, and they're represented by these sponges that are placed all around our environment here. So these sponges serve a very important part in our ecosystem. They represent something else that does pretty much the same job as a sponge does. So think about it. What exactly do sponges do? There's two things. First of all, they absorb water. Okay, so if I squeeze this sponge, you're going to see that there's water present in it, and I can absorb it up. Okay, what else do sponges do? If you think about it, we use them to clean, and that's exactly what this landform is. Take a moment and see if you can think of what sponges represent on this model. They clean, they absorb, and one other thing that they do, they are a wonderful habitat. They're a nursery for small animals or fish or insects. So what is it that you think those sponges represent? Hopefully you said a wetland. And I love compound words because they pretty much tell you the definition of what it is. It's wetland. So it's land that mostly stays wet. It's not really for swimming in, but it's land and it's wet. Okay? And they're very beneficial to our environment. They clean, prevents flooding, and they're a great habitat. So now let's say someone starts to come into this area and we start to make an impact on it. We start to change things, and let's see what those changes are going to do to our environment. But before we do that, let's have a rainstorm, okay? And rain can come down in two ways. It can come down just in a slow mist, like we have from this bottle, okay? And if you think about it, that water is going to seep down into the ground nice and easily. Slow mist. You're not going to get a lot of runoff. Okay, runoff is that water that you see running down your street, probably into your stream, and carrying lots of other chemicals or sediment or debris. So this is going to seep right in. Now we're working on a plastic model, so it doesn't seep in, but you can imagine if we were on the grass. Now I want you to think about those thunderstorms that we have. It's going to be a quick, heavy downpour. And let's see exactly what happens with our thunderstorms. Now underneath of the model, I have a beaker, okay? And we're going to measure how much water runs off. Another great compound word. So we have wetland, meaning wet land, land that's wet, and then runoff. That's going to be the water that runs off of our land. And when that runs off, it carries things, sometimes good, sometimes bad, usually bad things. So here's my 100 mLs of water. Let's go ahead and make it thunder. Thunder, rain, okay, down, down, down. The rain's coming. Okay, now it doesn't really have time to absorb into the ground like our slow, steady rainfall did, but still, we don't see a lot of it running down into our lake. We don't really want runoff coming into our lake because it carries other things, and we'll talk about that later. But I want you to keep an eye on what happened when we had a thunderstorm now and we had all of our wetlands in place. Let's go ahead and collect that water. So I'm going to take my stopper out. I'm going to just lift this up a little bit, see if I can get any of the water in that we put down. So remember, I put 100 mLs down. There's a little bit left on there, but I can't get much out. So how much did I get? I actually only got maybe 5 mLs, okay? So not much at all. Let's dump that out. I'm going to put the container back down there, put my stopper back in, and we're ready to start. So let's say we start to change this environment. I want you to notice some of the things that we do. So along comes a farmer, okay? And a farmer, he's going to need to build some homes, some barnyards, some house for him to live in, and as for his animals. So let's go ahead and build them. We're going to put just a couple barns, there, maybe his house, but oh, you can see already that these trees are starting to get in his way, so he's probably going to cut down one of those trees. So let's cut that tree down. He needs that area for something else. Okay, so maybe he wants to park his tractors there. With a farm comes a couple things. First of all, he's going to till up his fields. Okay, so he has to be able to plant his seeds. So he's going to till up his fields, and as he does that, something called sediment might end up running down into our water. So let's go ahead and put some sediment on there. I don't know if you can read that or not. Sediment. Okay, so whoa, that was a lot. As we disturb soil, small particles of it become loose, and when there's a heavy rainfall, it's easy for it to run down into our stream. Now, do you think fish would like particles of soil in their stream or lake? Think about being able to breathe, or even being able to see food. Fish breathe through their gills, which are easily clogged up by something called sediment. It makes the water very cloudy, hard for them to see, hard for them to breathe, hard for them to find food. Keep that in mind, okay? So since I'm a farmer, I also need some farm animals. Let's go ahead and put a few farm animals. I have horses. Well, sometimes they don't stand up. I have a pig. I have another pig. Some chickens. Another horse. And a cow. Okay? So what is it that sometimes, why do farmers keep all that? Because they give us food. They help us to do things. But they also give us something else. What else do farm animals give us? Well, if you said, take a second to think, what do you think else they give you? It looks kind of like what I'm holding in my hand. They give us cow manure, or pig manure, or horse manure. So our farmer has lots of manure because he has lots of animals. It's not that much fun, especially, so he's going to need to spread out a little bit. Let's take this wetland out. Okay, so if we remove this wetland, I want y'all to think about what's going to happen when we do that. But hey, we can store all our manure right there along the stream. Oop, someone in. Do you think that's a good idea, to store our manure along the stream? Let's take a look and see. Okay, so think about storing your manure along a stream. What's going to happen when we have our heavy rainfall? Okay, so our farmer's very happy here. Of course, our farmer has some friends. So our friends, they want to build a house. They come along, they find a great spot up here in this corner. They're going to rip out the meadows. Okay, here's their lovely backhoe. Let's go ahead and dig up some of the soil up here. We better take that tree down too, so it doesn't fall on our house once we build it. We're going to dig up, disturb all the soil there, rip up the trees, and when we do that, again, we get that lovely sediment that we had at our farmyard too. So let's go ahead and sprinkle some sediment on here. All over. So, loose particles of soil are going to start to be loosened up. The plants are going to be disturbed. Nothing to hold, the roots aren't going to be there to hold it in place. So, okay, so he's digging. You know what? We need to put our house here. So let's get rid of this wetland too. Take that wetland out and let's put our house there. Awesome. So we have a house. We have a little road. We better make some more roads. So let's get rid of this grassland, these meadows, pick those up, because we need to be able to drive. Okay? Of course, if we have a house, we need to go to work too. Let's see, where can we build our work? So what we're going to build, in this case, for this one, we're going to build, maybe this factory makes kitchen cabinets, okay? So here's a great spot up here. I need to be near the water since I'm making kitchen cabinets, because sometimes I need to bring water in to clean out some of my equipment. So let's go ahead and do that. tree's falling down. I better get rid of it. So we're taking out trees, taking out another wetland. We had some disturbance, right? Because we had to dig up there. So let's go ahead and put a little bit of sediment there. Oh, I think some of it's going to end up in the stream because we didn't put the proper protections down to keep it from going in. Okay? So, we have a place to live. We have a place to make our food. We have a place to work. I think we need to have some fun now. So let's find an area that we think might be a great place for some fun. So hey, we love to golf. So let's take out all of these wetlands. We're going to get rid of these wetlands. Well, golf courses have lots of grass, and that's great. But you know what else they have to do sometimes? They have to fertilize. They have to build. So they have to move some dirt around to make them the way they want. So of course, more sediment. Okay, remember that sediment is the fine soil that ends up in the stream if we don't protect it from going down in there. So let's put some sediment on here. We want our grass to be green and lush. So what do we use? Fertilizer. We need lots of fertilizer. Okay, spread it around. You know who else needs fertilizer? It's going to be our homeowner, because they want beautiful green grass. They want to have the best green grass in the neighborhood. So on top of their sediment that they had before, they're going to put down their fertilizer. Do they really need that wetland? Well, let's leave it there for now. Another thing that we don't want pests coming along and eating up our grass or killing it. So we've got to put down some poison. And that poison might be called pesticide. Now, sometimes we have to use pesticide, but we should use it sparingly. We don't want to overdo it. So pesticides will kill insects, maybe they'll kill funguses, some things to protect things that we planted. Maybe we planted some roses and we don't want a fungus to get it and kill the leaves. So we're going to put down some pesticide. I'm kind of lazy. I'm not going to read the directions. I'm just going to sprinkle it, right? Doesn't matter. Let's see. So our homeowner and our golf course has put down pesticide and fertilizer. Now, who else do you think will use pesticide and fertilizer? It's probably our farmer. Now, our farmer knows that this costs a lot of money and it can be harmful to the environment if you don't read the directions right. So he's going to put it down. But you know what? He's going to put down just enough because it cost him a lot of money and he wants to protect the environment. So he's going to put down just enough to fertilize his crops. Save him some money and have good crops in the meantime. Okay, so we have our golf course, we have our house to live in, building some new houses, our farmland to feed us, our work, some place to enjoy ourselves. This is a beautiful spot down here by the lake. What can we do with that? What do we like to do near the water? And that's swim or boat. But we can't really do that if we have to cut through the wetland here. There's tall grasses and trees. Let's actually get rid of that wetland. Maybe we can pave it or bring in some sand so we can get right to the beach. Well, let's take them both out because I think I want to build a boat ramp. Okay? So think about it. What else comes when we have our boats? What else do we need when we bring boats in? If you have a motorboat, you need gasoline. Okay? So we're going to have some gasoline. Let's go ahead and build our gas station. Actually, it could be a restaurant, a gas station. We can have a lot going on there. And there's going to be lots of cars that come there. Maybe cars pulling their boats, or cars just coming to have lunch and dinner. And we can go ahead and put cars on our road too. Sometimes, unfortunately, our cars aren't in good shape, and maybe they'll leave some bits of oil or antifreeze on the pavement. Whoops, that came out pretty fast. Doesn't usually leave that much, but just to give you an idea, think about it. Have you ever seen drops of shiny liquid on your driveway? A lot of times when we turn our cars off after we've driven them, you'll get little bits of water dripping. or you might have some gas spill somewhere. So that's what that's going to represent. Some overspill of our gas, or antifreeze maybe that keeps our car running cool, that might end up on our sidewalks. So far, we need a place to shop, okay? So we love having this golf course here, but it's just too much work. It's too much open space. So let's go ahead and build ourselves a Target. And of course, if we have a Target, we have to have a place to park. So we're going to put down this concrete. And that represents what's called an impervious surface. So that means water cannot penetrate through. It's just going to run off. And we've heard that word before, where the water runs off. Okay? We might end up with a little bit of oil on there. And we're going to have cars on there. And probably when we built, we had some more sediment that was put on there. Okay? So let's just go ahead and put a little sediment around there. So far we've made quite a mess of everything. But these are all pretty much things we need, right? We have to have them. One more thing that we don't have that we need, and that is a soccer field, right? We need to have somewhere to play soccer. This looks like a wonderful spot. Let's go ahead and get rid of these wetlands. Take those out. And, well, we need grass, so we better fertilize. We don't want any insects to eat up our brand new grass. So we better put down our pesticide, okay? But we have beautiful grass, okay? Let's see. I think we might need a little more parking spot over here, so let's get rid of that. Wetland, we don't need that. They need more parking for the factory there. We can go ahead and leave these other wetlands, because this is going to be a big drainage point here. We might not want to get rid of that, but we do need to build one more house for our neighborhood. So let's go ahead, remove that wetland, and of course, when we built that house, we're going to have some more sediment. Whoops. Now, before we finish up with this part, let's think about another problem that sometimes we might add to it, and that's salt. So if this was a winter scene, we would be adding salt to our roads also. Is that something that our fish are going to be happy with down here? Okay, so now let's take a minute and let's think about what's going to happen. We've removed our wetlands. We've added lots of different chemicals, and we've disturbed the soil so that we can have small particles of soil. We have our cow manure and pig manure over here. Let's take a minute and make it rain again. Okay? So, we'll have a nice soft, slow rain. Hopefully, some of these things will settle down into the grass and go down through the soil, because that will help to clean it up. It goes through the soil and is filtered there, and it will not be as harmful as if it ends up in the stream. But oh no, look already, we have some runoff into our streams. If it ends up soaking through, the soil will clean it, and we'll have some nice, and the groundwater will capture this water and we can reuse it. But instead, we're gonna have a thunderstorm again, okay? So bam, boom, thunder, thunder, lightning. Let's get all this stuff going down in. So it's raining. Are our fish happy? What's happening? Do you think they're gonna be happy? Are they gonna be able to breathe? Are they gonna be able to find prey? Their gills are going to get clouded. My gosh, look at that mess. Okay, even though we kept a few wetlands. So let's see what happens when I remove the plug and how much water we collect. If you remember on the last one, we barely collected anything. This one, I don't even have to tilt it. I'm going to get it big. If you recall the word, what was the word when the water runs off of the land? It's a nice easy one. It's called runoff. Okay, I'm going to plug it there. We still have lots more to go in, but take a look at how much we had runoff this time. Last time, we couldn't even see the amount of water. It was down to here. This time we have this much runoff. Does this look like something the fish would like to live in? Probably not. Let's get rid of that mess. Okay, so we have made a mess of things here. And the good news is we can make some changes to make this better. Okay? A few things that we can do. We know how well wetlands help to clean things. Look at that already. It cleaned up some of the runoff there. Our farmer, let's go ahead and put some wetland back here. So he doesn't have to remove all of his wetlands. Put that back, and that'll keep that sediment on his field where he wants it. He doesn't want his soil running into the stream any more than our fish do. So if he has a wetland there, or maybe a grove of trees or shrubs, that will help to stop the soil from running in. Same with the fertilizer and pesticide. Now, if you're a farmer, take a look at this farm. He has put his tills in this direction. Can you think of something else that he could do to make a change? To make it so that less water runs off into our lake here, and our fish will be happier? If you said he could plow in that direction, you're absolutely right. The water's not going to run in there then. It'll be more likely to run back onto the land and seep in. He can actually not till at all, and then the soil won't be disturbed and you won't have runoff at all. Let's take a look at his pile of manure here. Okay, so we didn't really have much run in, but imagine as that manure starts to break down and it falls into the stream, who's going to be happy? Not the fish, not the insects that live in here, not the animals that eat those organisms. Okay, so what our farmer needs to do, he can use this as fertilizer for his field, as long as he doesn't do it just before a heavy rain. Okay, so he doesn't have this big pile of manure there, and it's not going to end up in the stream. And he has to use less fertilizer. He can make sure his cows don't end up going near the stream or in the stream. Oftentimes you'll see cows going in the stream. That disturbs the whole habitat there. So it not only do cows have waste that goes in the stream, but it kicks up the homes of the organisms that live there. Okay, so the farmer has a lot he can do. And I'm sure he was happy to do it as long as he is able. How about our homeowners? First of all, they can start to read the directions on their fertilizer bags. They don't have to put down more than they need. Sometimes we just want to get rid of that bag of fertilizer and be done with it. But instead, we should read the directions, know how much we should use. Maybe we could plant some nice trees or shrubs around our yard to prevent that runoff that we had. Our construction site, they should be putting down those retaining tubes that you've seen them. They look like long red and black worms that they put around the site. And what that does is on heavy rain days, it prevents that sediment or those small particles of soil from leaving the site. It'll keep it there, won't run into everywhere else's area. Okay? And another thing I want you to do is take a look next time you go to Target or Walmart. Look for that area that's called a culvert. And what they do is they dig a deep, deep pond nearby, and any water that would run off of the parking lot, because water can't go through the parking lot, and it would run off into our streams. Instead, we want it to run into this deep pond so that it can sit there and slowly infiltrate into the soil and regenerate our groundwater. They can also make their own wetlands, plants that they know will help absorb water and sediment. Okay? Now again, we can come down to our soccer field. We don't need to use fertilizer and pesticides here. Grass can be strong without too much, so maybe we should be a little bit more judicious on our use there. And also, why not put a wetland there? We don't need to be able to walk right up to the water. We can have a small path here, but if we can put some shrubbery and trees and tall grasses here, it makes a great habitat, as well as preventing runoff into that area. Now, one thing that our industry does, let's say that industry, like I had said before, makes cabinets, and they use lots of water to clean off their tools. Well, sometimes that water is hot. If they release hot water into our stream, think about it. Is that going to be a good thing for the organisms that live in the stream? Is there something we can do to change that? We sure can. And that's just letting the water cool. Even though that water's clean, if it's hot water going in, it's going to change the habitat, the ecosystem of this stream. So let's get our cow out of the stream. Let's make our water cool before we put it back in. Okay? And you know what? He's a responsible landowner, so he's going to actually put back a wetland right adjacent to his building. So that will prevent runoff from his company there. Now our store here by the stream, we really don't want runoff occurring and running directly into our pond here. So let's do this. Let's take out this surface. This is called an impervious surface, and water cannot penetrate through here. But maybe we could put gravel down instead, and the water could infiltrate down in, and it would get cleaned up before dumping right into the stream there. So instead of a hard concrete surface, we could use gravel, or we could use pavers, which are bricks with spaces between them where the water can filter down in. So we also, of course, can put back a wetland. So let's go ahead and put back maybe a smaller wetland, because we do like to go to the beach. And we do like to be able to access the water, but if we have a wetland here, maybe some trees and shrubs, we might be better off. Okay? So now, what do you think is going to happen when I pour more water down into our stream? Let's get rid of some of this mess. Okay? Get rid of our previous mess. And let's still more. We had a lot of runoff on that one. So if you remember, runoff is just water that runs off of the land and carries things from the land with it. So let's see. I'm going to put down another 100 mLs of water, and let's see what we get. Let me just fill my container. Okay. So if you remember the last time, we had almost 100 come back. But take a look. We added some wetlands back in. Okay. We started changing where we put our manure, maybe how we tilled the land. Hopefully some of our runoff will end up going down into the groundwater and not running down into our stream. So let's take a look. Well, to me, that looks like a big improvement. Let's see. Let's take off our plug and see what we ended up with here. So last time, if you recall, we had a full cup all the way to the top. This time, big improvement. Only this much runoff. Where did the rest of the water go to? It went into the wetlands and it went into the ground. So it was able to seep down into the ground because the soil was able to absorb it. That water that's in our groundwater will help to recharge these streams, will be water that we can use for drinking water. As it goes down into the ground, it actually acts as a cleaner. So the fact that we didn't get much water running down, that's actually a big improvement. So yeah, sometimes we make a mess of things, but we can also improve things. And that's what always makes me happy, when I see the big changes that we're making these days on improving our environment. Everyone from the farmer to the homeowner to the construction and our industry. Okay? And you can do your part too. Think about a few ways that you can do that. Okay? So we started out with a beautiful ecosystem here. Kind of went to a mess, but I think we're going to end up kind of helping the environment as if we implement all of these changes. Thanks for listening, and I hope over the next weeks and months and years, you'll think about some things that you can do to help improve our environment.